Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia Grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
So let's get perked up. It is December 15th. Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Catherine White, bringing you the guests, the issues, the action, and amplifying the voice of the grassroots to get things done and, of course, to make politics fun. So glad you're in the room. Let's talk about the episode today. The 2023 holiday season wrap, shining a light on what matters. And I'm so excited because, we could have packed it like we usually do with 100 guests. But what we want to do is pack it full of learning. So we have Senator Mamie Locke here from Senate District 23, and she is the new Senate Caucus Chair. So we'll be welcoming Senator Locke, and she is going to shine the light on policy. And then we're going to go to somebody new, and I'm so excited to welcome, and hopefully he'll enjoy today, Cody Connors here, activist dad and TikTok influencer, and he's going to shine the light on what's showing up and speaking on issues that matter and really that impact that we can have when we do show up. Thank you, Cody, for being here. And then lastly, bringing some light, joy, and hope in the room, a great guest, Federico, an activist who is claiming he will shine the light on how important it is to claim our democratic values of freedom and fairness. All right. I hope that you have your coffee. I hope that you're ready, because it's time for show business. And that is, if you're new to the room, welcome. We have some rules, though. We're just not a bunch of crazy women doing stuff. We do have rules. We use the chat to just talk about what's going on. So please share maybe some of your holiday takeaways or your big nuggets that you want to tell everybody that you'll be doing. But also keep it real, keep it honest, and don't get nasty. Because if you're naughty, we'll tell Santa and we'll kick you out. So, and also the after chat, our favorite part. We will be there talking today. We hope some of the guests stay to join us, but if not, we will be definitely talking about what we talked about today and sharing about some stuff coming up. And lastly, like I said, thank you to our patrons. You're in the room. We couldn't do this without you. I want to thank our newest patron. We have Susan LaBandabar of Swing Blue Alliance. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It really shines the light on what matters is women doing this work, investing in people that are actually making that change. And that's this show. So thank you for those who believe in us and who do that. And this time with the holiday spirit, it'd be great if you invest in us. So thank you. And pull up some swag. Let's show some swag we have. Cody, if you haven't had a chance, this is your chance to get what democracy could look like on you. And it does look good on you. So look at that. We have some great sweatshirts. We have some great mugs and even some stuff for the little ones. And I can tell you this will keep you warm. But what's cool is that we'll be talking to Fennell today about signaling what we wear on ourselves when we walk around. Democracy looks good on you. Well, actually looks great on you. So get yours today. And that also really helps spread the word when you're walking around rocking around the Christmas tree and shopping. So lastly, I want to make sure everybody knows something. No Friday Power Lunch until after New Year. So this is our last show for this season. Can't believe it. And then we're going to come back strong on January 5th. And we're coming straight out and attacking fascism with Denver Riggleman, author of The Breach. Because, if you were with us back when the insurrection happened, we were really had Jerry Conley on that day. The next day, and talked about that insurrection. Now we're going to have on Denver Riggleman. So thank you. So that would be great. So keep that in mind. And you want to show that graphic. It's so lovely. And we're going to have probably one other guest on and talk about messaging and fascism.
Everyone just saw it, Catherine.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I can't see the one side of my screen. I apologize. All right. So that was a lot of blah, 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 ho, 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 and jingle bells. So let's get to something that matters very much to everybody, the grassroots update with LUISA BOYARSKI. LUISA,
Well, it is.
get up. Do you have your holiday sparkle on today? Are you ready to shine the light on what matters?
So yes, but I spend the holidays in the Caribbean. So this is my, lighter weight, getting ready for some warm weather, sparkle. Also,
Sparkle it.
and one thing that I'm encouraging everyone to do, at least for a week during the holidays, is take a break, right? We have a lot that's going to be happening in 2024. So take some time to yourself or use it as an opportunity to reconnect with folks that you've been doing this great political work with, but like just do it as people, not as people who need to have an agenda. So hopefully you'll be able to do that. I'm grabbing a glass of wine with some of my favorite political colleagues, Kathleen and Sharon, later this afternoon, mainly because they made me, chicken noodle soup for when I was sick 2 weeks ago. So this is a way to just reconnect with them before I leave. That being said, wanted to take some time to reflect on some of the lessons learned from this year and what it means for us next year. So one of the things is supporting campaigns early is super important. We always talk about this, but there were quite a few races this year where the Democrats lost just by a couple of votes. I want to encourage people, don't wait until 2025 to re-engage with those campaigns. Re-engage with them now. Thank those people for running and talk to them about what is their plan and strategy for staying engaged in their communities until the next election. Encourage them to run again. Invite them to congressional events for these races that we're going to be working on in 2024. Think about ways to keep them engaged. We don't want them to feel like we forgot about them and then all of a sudden, oh yes, now you have to, we're going to ask you to run for office again. So really think about how can we support campaigns early and not lose track of those candidates between now and when we will hopefully be able to elect them in the future. The next is educating voters is important. So we realized this year that not only is voter education good because it lets people know about the elections, voter education is important because some of the options for voting in Virginia, while it's great we have multiple choices for folks, some of them are really complicated. And we need to make sure people are fully informed about what does it really mean when you're doing a mail-in ballot and what are all of the different things you need to fill out. And another is same-day voter registration. Great that we have it, but again, you're filling out a number of forms there. And a lot of the time, election officials are not looking over your shoulder, making sure you're doing it correctly. They're just taking that form, putting it in a pile, and then we might find out days later that it wasn't filled out, and then your vote doesn't count, right? So it's really important that we're going to be doing some of this voter education early, and that's something that the coalition is going to be taking on in 2024. The third thing is showing voters that Democrats deliver is important, right? The fact that Democrats now control both the House and the Senate, we need to let voters know that Democrats are going to be acting on their behalf in Richmond. So this means during the General Assembly session, we want to highlight Democratic wins. When did Democrats vote the way we wanted them to? And make sure that we're putting that all over social media. This isn't something we want to wait to talk about in the election. We want to make sure that there's a constant reminder that Democrats do the work. Secondly, we want to highlight bad votes by Republicans, especially Republicans that we're going to want to get out of their seats in a future election. Really taking time to monitor that and talk about that is going to be critical. And then, of course, we want to highlight the governor's vetoes. It's going to be something we know is going to happen. Democrats will pass some great legislation. The governor will veto it. That's something we need to be able to talk about now in the run-up to the governor's race, where we, of course, would love to have a Democrat win. So the fourth and final thing I want to bring up is money matters. And the reason I want to bring up money matters is we are looking at the budget this year. It is the biennial budget. This is the first time that the governor, Youngkin, is going to have a chance to introduce his own budget. We really need to be careful about watching that money because we know that revenue in Virginia is going to be down next year. That means there are going to be some really difficult decisions that need to be made about where money is spent. So I encourage you to follow the budget amendment process and get involved when there are calls to action. We want to make sure that our legislators know the way we want them to vote on decisions around the budget and how money is going to be used in the state going forward over the next 2 years. So those are some of the lessons learned, things to keep in mind for 2024. And then in the chat, in case you're wondering, how do I get involved in the new year? The first thing is we're going to be down in Richmond for lobby days much of January. So I'm going to put a number of those lobby days in the chat, save those dates, and think about, well, where do I want to be involved? How can I get down there and make sure I'm into, talking to the people who represent me in person, right? We get that opportunity again. Let's take advantage of it. So, and then the last is, if you're not quite sure about the best way to be monitoring legislation, but you want to get more involved, I'm also putting in a training that they are doing on the LIS system, which is the system that we use to track legislation in Virginia. So if you're like, hey, I'm new to this, but I want to get better integrated into the process, it's a great way to do so. And it's just happening this afternoon at 2 o'clock. So
is that the list system? Are you dropping sort of General Assembly terms? The list system is what is that? Is that the system we look for bills?
Yes. Yep. Legislative Information Services, maybe.
Yeah, I love it. It's our government lingo. I have no, that means a wrap up. Santa's mad. We're going a little over, but I want to say, I'm going to show for our, put a word out for Network Novus organizing a celebration, an all in kind of action on January 10th and 11th. So stay tuned. And we're going to be talking about electing women and the power of that and the policy connected with Danica Rome and Emerge. So stay tuned. We'll be sharing that. So thank you, LUISA, about the importance of that advocacy and resting.
Absolutely.
Happy
holidays, everyone.
Bye. See you later.
Holidays,
Happy holidays. It is, I'm really glad LUISA said that about one, really taking your time for yourself. I don't know about everybody else in this week, but there's so much to pack in, and it is good to take the time to go to the holiday party, do something with your family, right? And it's just really important. And that's why we're just doing this show today and wrapping up and taking a little time off. It's important.
Yeah, we could use a little time off. I was really excited, though, that some of the things that LUISA talked about that are so important are the things that you and I are going to have an opportunity to talk about as we talk about celebrating Linda Hirshman. So I'd like to get right into that.
Let's get into it.
And so I really wanted to take an opportunity and make sure that everyone knew a little bit about her. She was on our show probably a little more than a year ago, and we were going to have her on again, and we didn't have the opportunity. But I thought that what she talked about and really researching her, that it was really important that you all understood who she was and what a profound effect she had on the show, but on me personally, in terms of the way that we think about how we win in 2024 and on. But I wanted you guys to know that she was really a badass. When I had the opportunity to do the book, The Color of Abolition, I didn't know much about her other than the book. But as I continued to sort of follow along with her, I found out that she was truly amazing. She was a lawyer turned philosopher and professor. She was a feminist provocateur, and she was a cultural historian. But here's one of the stories that you probably didn't know. She liked to kick up a fuss, and she made no bones about it. There was one time when Linda Hirshman had absolutely every single person mad at her because she did this article on Homeward Bound. And what she said was, women, you're all taking time off to go home and raise kids and have a family and be these home wives. And in actuality, you're hurting everybody. You need to stay in the workforce. You need to stay there and be powerful, because when you're going home with all the skills that you have, you are ceding your power. And people were just absolutely ticked off about it. But she did not give up. She wanted people to have this really important conversation. What's even more significant about her, they had her on Good Morning America. And people were so angry with her that they sent email and actually crashed the site. But she still didn't give up. It was important to have the conversation. And after that article, she wrote a book about it. So I'm just saying that she is one who actually promotes conversation and dialogue, sometimes the stuff you don't want to hear. But I think that she's probably very, very proud of the work that all women and everyone is doing today to keep democracy alive. And so, Catherine, come on back and let's talk about
Hey, yeah,
when we did the color of abolition and the things that Linda talked about and why they're so important and how they embody the work that we do today. So we have the 7 of them on the screen for you. And we just want to talk a little bit about how relevant they are and what it means today. Ideas and publishing them matter. And so when you think about that, Catherine, what do you think?
Yeah, when I think about, I mean, we talked about, especially when related to the show. I mean, I want to just say one thing before we get started is when we thought about doing our last show and we looked at how many guests we had on and everything we learned, Linda's work was it changed us, and it showed that we have to sometimes go back to move forward, right? We should really honor that because these are ideas that abolitionists use to fight this kind of discrimination. And we're in this fight of our lives now. So Linda, these 7 points of this article she wrote is so inspirational. For the first one, ideas and publishing. We know that we have writers in the room that send articles, and I see them in the room now that do that. That's awesome. We also know on social media, we made friends and partners with Demcast, Nick Knudsen. I mean, so he was so inspirational. We're still working with him. What are some thoughts around Nick's work?
Yeah, Nick's work, if you sort of think about the number of people that they actually touch and what it means, it is millions, and it equates to millions and millions of dollars, the way that they get these ideas through social media. And if you sort of think about it, they had their newspapers back then. And when the newspapers, when they would close one down, they'd open up another one to make sure that the word was getting out. Because it was so important that people understood how important it was to have these new ideas and how much you could learn from different people and different things. And so ideas, publishing them matter. We do that today. They did it back then to get through the movement. And that's what we're doing today.
And how about number 2?
Weekly meetings build solidarity. This is my favorite because we put so much effort into this show. I think, and I hope that people can see and feel through what happens on Friday, how much effort is here. But one of the important things is that you get to have new ideas again. Someone comes in with a different way to do something and you get to try it. But more importantly, it's to give you power. It's to give you the ability to fight on for the next week because you're with people who are like-minded, but you get strength and encouragement through those meetings. And so that's why I think it's so critically important.
And I agree. And I think when I think of new partners that came in this year, Red Wine and Blue with Penny Blue, and they started also building that community and having those meetings on a regular basis. And I know like our Grassroots Coalition, regular basis. I think groups in this room doing this is another key. Making sure we publish ideas, people are seeing them, and then we're meeting on a regular basis because persistence, resistance matters. So that's important.
Yeah. And then number 3, talk and knock far and wide. Yes. And LUISA was just talking about that. So engaging in campaigns, canvassing, phone banking, whatever you do, the conversations that you have an opportunity to change those conversations. We often talk about young people. Okay, so we may not be in an audience with a bunch of them, but there are nieces and nephews and sisters and brothers. And so we have an opportunity to talk to many as people as we can, to knock on many doors as we can, whether that's through chatting, whether that's through Facebook, but we have to ensure that we use every single opportunity to get the word out, just like the abolitionists did.
Yeah, and it reminds me, if you guys all remember in the room, we had David Pepper on. He wrote Laboratories of Autocracy, and really it was another person that has been informing our work. That talking about showing up, running everywhere, and then also he's out there publishing and showing and shining the light on injustice all the time, but also publishing those ideas. So he incorporates as a guest the perfect person and shows how to be a great activist. David Pepper is one of my favorites, and I don't know if you have a favorite from that list of people we've had on?
Oh yeah, well, David Pepper is one of my favorite, but also Steve Phillips
Philip.
from How to Win the Civil War. Because I think it's so important. If you look at a lot of the things that are happening in Richmond, when the statues came down, when we all had all those discussions, it was really important to understand that the Confederacy is alive and well in terms of the way that they are fighting with us today, with the things that they are doing, banning books, the things, the list goes on. And so I think that he was one of my favorite. Just go back to, again, to Linda's point that it's not new. And
Right.
these battles were won, and they were won with these tactics. And so they're newer today. So we have to sort of take the old and the new and put them together. And that is the
Ooh, I
way we
like
win.
that.
Sometimes innovation is just doing really simple things well.
Yeah, no doubt. And then number 4, I mean, this is what you talk about today. This is our show, shining the light, right? On
Yeah.
injustice, make it public. We're doing
Yes.
it.
Yes. And we're doing that today. And I think there is a whole bunch of bravery that happens in the corners around the show. And the most important thing is you have to show it. And that was the same thing that happened back in during the abolition. It was when they had a decision, and the decision was that they were going to make slaves go back. They changed the laws, and even if you were free in New York or wherever it was in the North, they changed the law that you had to go back. And that was one of the things that they said, oh no, you have to see what this actually looks like. And we've seen that with George Floyd. We've seen that. We've seen other things that happen, stories we tell about abortion, stories we tell about injustices. And even when legislators are doing the wrong thing, we can't get off of it one week and not talk about it again. We have to keep on ensuring that the public sees these things happen so that they vote for their own interests.
We saw that in Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
The 3 legislators who rose up after the gun violence, and they just made the idea that the Republicans down in Tennessee were not listening to the people. They just kept shining the light on that injustice of how that gerrymandering was happening down there. And I'm going to say that wherever I've gone today, I don't care who you are, people know the name Kate Cox, like, right? The woman who needed an abortion for health care and was denied. It is outrageous. And I think that this is going to be, again, keep shining the light of what's happening to women in this country, to people around pregnancy, around contraception, around freedom. So we need to keep talking about it because it's so important.
Yeah, and I just would add that it's really about storytelling, because they might forget everything we talked about today, but you'll remember a story.
Remember a story. We're good at storytelling. And then we also want to talk about the Supreme Court, because it does matter, because there's some cases going in front of the Supreme Court today or this week that have been carrying on. We have to keep watching it. We have to get control of it. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Let's hurry it up. Okay. So Dahlia Lithwick, Lady Justice, was about the Supreme Court. Don't be intimidated. Simon Rosenberg.
Simon Rosenberg. And I would just add, in terms of don't be intimidated and never giving up. I don't know that we talk about rural enough, because that is where the most fear comes in. And I just think about Lindley Thorne and others who are in these rural communities, and they're not scared and they don't give up. They're real badasses. So they're all around us.
Talking about badasses, I think as we move into the next segment, and again, that list, you don't have to memorize it. You're all doing it. I think it's as important, but we want to just make sure we bring some fun in here and frame up what we'll be talking about with Senator Mamie Locke. She'll be coming on, and let's go right into that video, because when we talk about rocking around the Christmas tree, feminist style.
you doing?
You said I could update the lyrics.
Right, but I didn't think that you...
Don't want diamonds, cash or stars. Nothing that comes in a box. No more fluff, I've had enough. And I can buy my own damn stuff. Santa baby, I got a baller car of my own. I bought it all by myself. Santa baby, with zero help from help on the shelf.
Aren't the holidays fun? No.
Listen, Santa, to what I say. A girl's best friend is equal pay. So stop interrupting me when I talk. And don't text me pictures of your...
We're supposed to sit here on this side of the dais and to ranking member Lee's point, see a party that has voted against women's access to abortion, voted against our right, the Lilly Ledbetter Equal Pay Act, voted against the Violence Against Women Act, voted against our right to have access to contraception, and also doesn't even vote for equal funding, equitable funding in women's sports. And I'm supposed to believe that this is who's looking out for my best interests? I think not. And to that I yield back.
Santa baby, I'd love to know my ass won't get grabbed at work by some ignorant jerk. Tell the dirtbag to put away the chimney tonight. Put away your chimney tonight. So put away your chimney tonight. And put away your chimney tonight.
Yes, so let's bring in Senator Mamie Locke. Hi,
Did you
Senator
enjoy-
Locke.
Did you enjoy that? We did that just for you, Senator.
Okay, Santa, bring it.
Sorry. So Senator Locke, I am so excited that I get to talk to you today. I know the last time we saw each other was at the Women's Summit, but I think it's really important to just stop for a minute and highlight what a badass you are. And I'm not sure that folks have an opportunity to sort of look back at all the work that you've done in the Senate, all the stuff that you've done. And I just want to celebrate you. When I was doing my research, I thought, holy smokes, she's a badass all by herself. And so when I looked at the endorsements, when I looked at your education, when I looked at the work that you've done, your time as mayor, I just want to say to everybody, go to senatorlocke.com and take a look at the badass she truly is. Now, let's get to the meaty stuff. This is what I want to talk to you about. I know that you have very close ties with Hampton University, and Vice President Kamala Harris was there. It was one of her very first stops. From whatever insider information you have, can you tell us your thoughts on that and what you think it did for the students and for young people?
Okay. It was her first stop on her HBCU tour, talking about specifically voting rights. And someone who first registered to vote as an 18-year-old, the first year that 18-year-olds to vote, and in a state that still had voter suppression. That was very, very uplifting for me and for the students who were very, very engaged in the whole process. And so she sat there and talked to them in kind of a Johnny Carson style format of I'm going to talk to you about why this is real, why it's important. And she answered their questions about issues of voter suppression, issues of what are the most important things that are coming before us today, and why it's important for them, Gen Zers, to get out and vote, because that is a group of individuals who don't feel that it's important for them. And so she tried to help them understand why it is important and what's on the line for them. And so, in telling them, you know, if you don't vote, the student debt thing is real. And it's real for you because it's going to impact you. And this affirmative action thing is real for you. And if you don't vote, it's going to continue to be real. I'm on this computer. I was teaching from this computer, and folks were telling me that they were having problems hearing me before. So
We are getting a slight echo, Senator. So I don't know if somebody else, is there anybody else, or do you have it on the phone? Is your phone on as well? Could that be?
It is. Let me turn my phone off.
Oh, I mean, is it on the program?
No, it's not. Is that better?
Well, you know what?
Every time I've been on this computer, I've had problems.
Well, right
you're
now,
talking right now sounds good.
Sounds good. So let's keep going. You've got too many good stories to tell to stop yet. Keep going.
Okay, so I turned up my volume a little bit too. So is that better?
Better.
Okay, all right, great. So, and I think that she spent quite a bit of time there, quite a bit of time just having a conversation. And I think that was the most important thing, was having a conversation about them, about their role in the world, and why they matter, why their votes matter, why it was important for them to be engaged. And that was the most important thing, their engagement. And they're participating in the process and why they needed to participate.
Well, I think that's incredible. I knew you would have some really great stories and words to tell us about that visit. It was pretty spectacular, and I know she continues that. And quite frankly, you'll be able to teach us a lot about what's happening with your students. I want to talk a little bit before, because our time is running short here, I wanted to talk a little bit about the bills that you care most about, the amendments that you care most about. If you could just talk a little bit about that, and then I know LUISA talked about it, but tell us what you need from us.
So right at the beginning, we knew that the whole process would open up on November 20th. So the leadership got together, both House and Senate, and said, we both want to put in two very important pieces of legislation having to do with women's reproductive rights and voting rights. So we decided that we would put in the two constitutional amendments. Well, there's some additional ones, but the two that we wanted to be SJ1 and SJ1, SJ2 and SJ2 will be the constitutional amendment dealing with the fundamental right to reproductive freedom and the constitutional amendment dealing with the qualification of voters. First, dealing SJ1 and HJ1 is the constitutional amendment dealing with the fundamental right to reproductive freedom. And this will be the first reference. And for everybody out there, changing the Constitution in the Commonwealth of Virginia is a very difficult process. Mm-hmm. It has to be read twice in the exact same form. You can't change a comma, a period, or anything. The wording has to be the exact same 2 years in a row. And so this will be the first reference for both constitutional amendments. And so this resolution basically says that it provides that every individual has the fundamental right to reproductive freedom, and that the right to make and effectuate one's own decisions about all matters related to one's pregnancy cannot be denied, burdened, or otherwise infringed upon by the Commonwealth unless justified by a compelling state interest and achieved by the least restrictive means. And so this has been introduced by Jennifer Boysko, all the women in the Senate, all the women in the House. So We would go before privileges and elections. Because it's SJ1, it will be done very early on, probably at the first privileges and elections meeting. So we asking that all of you be there, hear it, rah rah, to cheer us on, because we want to get this out there very early on. That's why it's SJ1, HJ1.
Okay.
And so we are trying to get these out early so that individuals would know that we're very serious about these constitutional amendments. I'm sorry. And so that we want folks to know what happened to Cape Cox in Texas. And you know that Virginia is the absolute last state in the South that has not passed any bans with regard to reproductive freedoms. We want to memorialize this in the Constitution of the Commonwealth. But this is heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Because we have to do this, 2 years in a row. And it has to have an election in between.
Yeah. That's going to, I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Senator.
Okay, I'll leave this one. And then before I go to the next one, if there are any questions or concerns about this.
No, I think that's probably the most important one. I know you're also carrying a one on voting.
SJ2 we've been doing for many years now, but it deals with the qualification voters and the right to vote. And most important piece in here is that anyone who's over the age of who's 18 or older has a fundamental right to vote in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that right should not be abridged by law. That phrase, "not abridged by law," is a very important piece in this, because essentially what that means is that no future legislature come in and pass a law dealing with voting that's going to infringe upon someone's right to vote. That is, they can't come in and pass some law saying you have to have photo ID, that you can move a voting location, that you can put in, that you can change early voting qualifications or anything along those lines. No future legislature can come in and do any of that if we have this constitutional amendment, because it basically says voting rights cannot be abridged by law. And essentially what this is also doing is basically restoring the rights of felons. That is, right now, that's what the governor does. Virginia is the only state that does that.
Wow.
So why is it that Virginia is the only state that has this holdover, the Jim Crow era, in the 1902 constitutional amendment, the Constitution? So we are trying to eradicate that feature from the 1902 Constitution, Jim Crow laws. And this will do that. Should we put this in our Constitution?
Yeah, but we're going to follow you very closely, and we're going to follow these bills and amendments very close. Catherine, I don't know if you have any additional things, but I just want to thank the senator for joining us today. This has been awesome, and I am going to encourage people to take a look at senatorlocke.com, because she is one badass, and you do not want to be naughty in her presence. I can assure you.
Don't be naughty. We got that naughty and nice list. Who's getting coal? Who's getting coal in the stockings? We have to wrap up for this segment, Senator, but we do have people that want to ask you questions in the chat. If you can answer that in the chat while we go to the next guest.
Sure.
You have time to stick around for a few minutes in the after chat. After one, you can just stay with us a little bit, and we can unmute people if they want to ask you. But if you can do that in the chat, that'd be great. Thank you again for being you. We'll be down there for lobby days and supporting all the policy. That's why we do elections. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Senator.
All right. Thank you. All right, I'm excited. We want to queue up the next speaker with a great video. If you haven't been following Cody Connor on TikTok, you should. His video went viral. As he said, he is. Go ahead, Robin, if you can cue that up.
I wasn't surprised by another delay at the last school board meeting. Because no matter how hard you try to implement these discriminatory policies in the right way, you are never going to find a right way to do the wrong thing. And Governor Youngkin's policies are wrong. One of the ways you could tell is because you have speakers from groups like Moms for Liberty here to support them. And I'll be real simple in case you aren't paying attention. They're not the good guys. How can you tell? I can help. The good guys don't get declared extremist groups by human rights organizations. Never in history have the good guys been the ones trying to ban books. Never in history have the good guys been a segregationist group pushing to legislate identity. Never in history have the good guys been closely connected with and supported by hate groups like the Proud Boys. And the good guys don't put Hitler quotes for inspiration on the front of their newsletters. Newsflash, they're the bad guys. They're the bad guys here supporting bad policy. And if you support the same bad policy, guess what? You're one of the bad guys too. When you look around and see only the wrong people support what you're doing the wrong thing. Now, you've heard some speakers come up here and say how they love these kids but won't accept them. I'm here telling you that if your love makes somebody not want to be alive, it's not love. That's not love. Some speakers are going to get up here and talk about parental rights. The only right a parent has is the right to responsibility. And if you need somebody else to tell you who your kid is, you're probably not that good a parent. And some are going to get up here and tell you how it's the law. Well, I'd remind you that slavery and segregation also used to be the law here in Virginia, and that there is no right way to do the wrong thing. So do the right thing. Reject these policies that harm and endanger our LGBTQ students. Be the good guys while you still can.
Cody, Connor, welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. So powerful the way you message on this subject matter, but let's talk about you. And you had told us when we interviewed you that you had moved to Virginia for a job, brought your family here, and it was really important to you where your kids went to school. And let's just start from there.
Well, yes, I mean, that's how we ended up in Virginia Beach. Our family moved here so that we could put our kids in schools with policies that we believed in.
Right.
And that's how I ended up talking at school board meetings, right? It was right after we moved here, Governor Youngkin introduced his model school policies that single out and discriminate against our trans and LGBTQ students. And my kids fall into that community.
Yeah, oh, it's true. And you really inspired. I know that that's how I saw you, and your words do matter. And when we talk about shining the light on what matters, the importance of showing up, and that's what you do. And talk about what that's been like for you in the sense of, I mean, you didn't plan on doing this. This didn't, when you wake up one day and go, oh gosh, I'm going to go be this activist, show up at the podium. I mean, but it's so important that you did that.
I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do nothing, right? I couldn't do nothing. That was the worst thing I could do, was nothing. And I don't give myself excuses, not when it comes to my kids.
Right.
And so what I knew I could do, and I'm in a new city, I don't know anybody. I'm not a well-off person by any means. I'm not influential, but I could talk. I could show up and I could talk. And so that's what I did, over and over and over again. I believe in the quote that Benjamin Franklin once said. He said, "Energy and persistence conquers all things." And I believe in that. Just like the thing, never give up. Don't be intimidated, and don't give up. Do what you can do. I think people forget that love is a verb. Love is an action. You can say whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
You can feel whatever you want to feel, but you have to take action to show your love.
I love the way you said that. And when you just how you got your start, I think activists in the room are people, regular people in the room that we've had just become, like Linda Hirshman said, make sure you publish your ideas, make sure they're seen every day. And people have found different ways, and you have found your way, even though you didn't ask for it, really protecting your children, your daughter who came out, and then you saw, and I love that you lead with love. And tell us a little bit about, that's how you kind of got started on your TikTok. I mean, on some of your subject matter. It's a simple start.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I downloaded TikTok because my wife kept sending me videos and I had to watch them because she was going to ask me about them. But then, after I watched it, I saw an opportunity to reach people, which is why I post my speeches on TikTok. I know people can't always think of something to say, use my words. I know people don't want to be the only one standing up. Here's somebody else standing up with you. And that's why I post my speeches. But I originally posted because I wanted people to have some positive in their life. My very first video was me telling to everybody else the same thing that I tell my kids every morning. Every morning before I leave work, I stop by my kids, I give them a hug, and I say, "You are so awesome, and you are so amazing, and I am so proud of you, and I love you so much. You have a good day, you try hard, and I will see you when I get home from work." I make sure they hear that every day from me. I want them to never have to question that. I want that to be the last thing I ever say to them. If that's the last thing that gets said to them, I want it to be that. I leave that video up pinned because my oldest child asked me to in my TikTok so that she could see it whenever she felt the need, because she's a grown up. She doesn't always get to talk to me. But that's always been my message on TikTok, is love each other.
Yeah. And I think too, when, showing up, it just means a lot. And I really wanted to shine that light on what people could really see, motivated by that love. And you think about all these students, right? These are just your kids, other people's kids. And we see that the right has went after school boards, and it's harmed children. And I think that light that you bring is that calling out that harm in the groups that do it, and the way you frame it, whether, I don't know how you do it, but you really are able to speak in a way like the normal guy, in the sense that you are, right? Like regular, would you call yourself regular dude?
Yeah, I'm just a regular guy. I'm a maintenance guy. I fix my own beat up car.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just,
but show up with that love.
Well, and that's it. It's you show up, and it's about doing what you can.
Yeah.
That's whenever you're looking for what you can do, it's what you can. And you can always show up. The only wrong thing you can do is nothing.
Oh, I like that. With that, we're going to end on that. And Cody, if you could stick around, I know you're on the lunch, but you're right. I mean, it is emotional. I can hear the emotion in your voice. And when we see these policies, it is really for us Democrats to stand up for our core values of like love and care, right, for each other. So we appreciate you, and we just wish you a great holiday season and everything else. We hope we stay in community with you, Cody. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I appreciate all the work you're doing, and appreciate you having me on the show today.
Yeah, love it, love it, love it. Yes, we do got to stand up and show up. And what I was glad that we ended on that note of that moral high ground, because I wanted to make sure we want to have our last guest to add some fun, to bring up Federico Curo to talk about. Federico, do you have your lights on? I'm going to put mine on. I brought mine. I've been seeing
I give them away as a gift.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, I want to make it. I'm so thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're at work as well, but I really think it's important when we talk about the messaging. Yeah, we always talk about messaging, what Democrats do or don't do. And I really said to you, let's end the show on a really positive note and talk about like that center values. When you heard Cody talk about that love and what that means about being a Democrat, and you really do care a lot about this subject matter. And I don't know if a lot of people know your story, why you were fighting so hard in this space because of your background, and why you feel like this moral high ground is something we need to conquer. So please welcome and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about my passion of many years But yeah, I mean, it really, I mean, someone asked me, why do you care so much about the way progressive leaning people communicate? And that it boils down to a deep respect and love for American freedom and democracy. And I grew up without neither in Argentina during a right-wing dictatorship. So there
Right.
was no freedom of the press, no freedom of speech, etc., and human rights abuses, etc. And so I just I don't want that to come to America. And it's and people don't realize that the ingredients for that are present. And so I try extra hard to help on the messaging front. And but yeah, but I mean, listening to Cody, that's what I talk about. I mean, it's instead of going out with with unframed facts and statistics and poll results and 10-point plans. Let's talk about speak from your heart, speak with
From your heart.
conviction. Yeah, and and bring it down to a moral level. There is no right way to do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And just Cody said it. Yeah.
I love that. And so when you talk about that, because we were talking about that center core, because we do talk about like the branding, the Democratic brand, and we talk about messaging, but in your mind, it's these core values of freedom and fairness and equity and empathy that actually can bring us together. Talk somewhat about that so people understand what you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Democrats are the party of freedom. Democrats are the party of freedom for all, the party of fairness, the party of empathy, the party of social responsibility. But that it's sort of like these are sort of the best kept secrets in American politics, and it actually hurts us because I think the biggest vulnerability we have is that we don't have a clear, positive moral brand as Democrats and as progressive leaning people. So I think it's super important that we do use this type of language, that the Democrats are the party of freedom, freedom for all, no
Right,
exceptions,
for fairness.
and over again, exactly. And I really do believe that if we Democrats had more awareness about our own moral values, our core moral values, we would feel more united. We would be more united, and being more, as you said, being more united makes us stronger. And
Yeah, and I
so I
think
think
it does unify, like you said, it's focusing on the values. We may disagree on policy sometimes, right? Not all Democrats are the same, but if we unite around the love and we unite around things that those core values, then I think it does make us stronger. It does unite us. So do you want to talk about what that looks like? We have just a few minutes. Let's talk about a naughty and nice situation. Do you have one? If you want to say,
I absolutely.
go ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah. So no, and then, but by the way, just that all of these things I say, they're backed by science, linguistics, psychology, neuroscience, but basically there's a moral component to every political issue. And that's why we need to talk about freedom, fairness, kindness, social responsibility, because all politics is moral, basically.
Yeah.
So yes, so
Just
yeah,
one.
I
We only
wanted
have
to
time for one because yeah, go ahead.
only one. So I want to talk. Let me see. So basically, we're gonna you decide. You tell me whether this
Well, the
is
audience,
person.
yeah, the audience could
for the-
chime in. Go ahead. Give
Oh,
them
okay,
naughty or
okay.
nice.
Okay. You can put in the chat whether the person who said this is naughty or nice, whether this person will get gifts this holiday season. Okay. So I'll mention one. Okay. President Biden may be old, but he gets shit done. More importantly, he's morally fit to lead, unlike any MAGA treason enabler. And Biden has beat the former MAGA president once, and he'll do it again.
Oh, that's such a
Naughty or
positive
nice?
note. Yeah, that I would say that's nice.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's not naughty.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, thank you, Federico. We're getting the ho, ho, ho. Thank you. And thank you for bringing the hope, the joy, the glitter, the sparkle. And thank you so much for being on today. All right, so that is what we call a wrap. And I want to bring up Fennell. I got to go back to my other screen. Fennell, oh my gosh, what a show again. We're ending out the season. So what are some of your thoughts as we look at everybody that, what we talked about today? Some takeaways.
Yeah, so I think my big takeaway, my number one takeaway, is to take a look at the person that Linda Hirshman was and the things that she thinks are important in order for us to win democracy and keep our freedom. So I think that's my first takeaway. And then because we're so short on time, I'm also going to say that Senator Mamie Locke did frame up for us the challenges that we have and the important issues that we need to be thinking about. So what is what are your takeaways?
You know, I'm just thinking we're sticking in that same lane. I think when we think about the year, for me, it's you always have to study the past and really how it and really to look at the future. When we go into 2024, we have a year ahead of us. So these are nuggets from Simon when we talk about being loud and proud. Rachel Bidicoffer, don't stay calm. Don't, follow the noise. Stay with the trend of Democrats winning over these issues that Mamie Locke has talked about, that we see in policy, like the freedom amendments that we'll be fighting for. This year, this is what's going to move the vote across Virginia, will be those policies, those amendments shining the light on what matters. That's freedom, choice, freedom to vote, which Federico talked about in his country where he couldn't vote under a dictatorship, right? And marriage equality, those issues and equality that we know our guest Cody Connor brought up with his LGBTQ rights that he's fighting for, these really matter. So I think that what a perfect way to wrap up the show. I want to make sure, if you have any last comments, I'll do some wrap up on that and we can get to the after.
Yeah, I do. I think what I also say is that, we do this show to sort of, to your point, is to build that weekly solidarity, that they build solidarity. They give us ideas. They are what push us forward. And so I'd like to think that the messages today, I love, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna steal that, Cody, because it's fantastic. But it also brings in that emotional, human storytelling, and that moves people in a way that other words can't. So that's what I'm taking away today.
I do. It's just like, I love it. I love it. And so what I want to make sure that we want to make sure everybody's ready and informed for the holidays. First of all, stay with us for the after chat. But before we go to after chat, make sure you get your democracy wear, your gear in the Badass Boutique. It will look great on you. And democracy should look great on everybody. Just wear it, flare it, especially around the holiday and the Christmas tree. So we hope you support the Badass Boutique. Go in there and look around. And remember, too, that we will not have a show the next couple of Fridays. We will be back January 5th with Denver Riggleman talking about, which we feel like is the biggest threat coming at us and has been since the insurrection, is the rise of white Christian nationalism. And we're going to have him on, and we will probably have another guest talking about what we could do about it. But stay tuned for what we're going to bring you in the new season. New show, new color, new fun, but old friends. Stay with us. Don't support us. Be a patron, right? So I don't know. I think that'd be great if we want to roll.